Howdy y'all, this is LosMan here. I'm going to do a in-depth video review here of a movie that's going to be pretty popular at this time of the year. And that movie is Silent Night, Deadly Night. Now, Silent Night, Deadly Night came out in 1984 and is directed by Charles Sealier. And movie stars Robert Brian Wilson as Billy. Now, the story is pretty straightforward. As a young boy, Billy witnesses his parents being brutally murdered by a man dressed up as Santa Claus. And afterwards, he is sent to an orphanage where he is basically abused and mistreated by the Mother Superior and punished because he's afraid of Santa Claus. Who wouldn't be? After all, he witnesses parents being murdered. So, of course, that warps his mind, and young Billy, as he grows up, gets a job at a toy store, and when he's asked to put on the Santa suit, bad things begin to happen. Now, when the movie was released in 1984, specifically November 9th, 1984, it was released on the same day as another popular horror movie, yet it made more money than that movie, and strangely enough, that movie was Nightmare on Elm Street. Yes, strangely enough, Nightmare on Elm Street was released on the same exact day as Silent Night, Deadly Night. Now, why did Silent Night, Deadly Night make more money? Well, it's because it was released on more screens than Nightmare on Elm Street, and that's when it got interesting. I remember that when both these movies came out, and I remember watching the previews to both of them. Nightmare on Elm Street creeped the hell out of me because it was like, wow. If you've never seen the original preview for Nightmare on Elm Street, you should check it out. It is a terrifying and scary preview. Now, as for Silent Night, Deadly Night, I remember the advertisements for it focused on the fact that it was a Santa Claus or a killer dressed up as Santa Claus going around and killing people with an axe. Even the the poster art shows Santa Claus going down the chimney with an axe. And that's the big mistake that they probably made, because when it was released, it encountered a shitstorm of controversy. You had, the PTA protesting it, parents group protesting it, churches were protesting it. The movie just garnered a tremendous amount of anger because of people mistakenly think that Santa Claus was going out murdering people, completely oblivious to the fact that no, it is an individual dressed up as Santa Claus who's committing the crimes, not Santa Claus himself doing it, which actually would have been pretty fun. But so in this controversy and problems, Silent Night, Deadly Night faced some issues. The studio was facing pressure from these groups to do something about the movie, to pull it and remove it from theaters. You also had critics basically tearing the movie apart, including Gene Siskel, who not only spoke ill of the movie, he actually went out of his way to criticize the director, producer, and writer of the movie. Even going after the studio. Wow. I cannot believe the amount of anger that these people had. Over a fictional movie. Now, keep in mind that Nightmare on Elm Street involved a pedophile murdering children in their young teens in their dreams, and yet you didn't see the shitstorm of controversy on this movie, which just goes to show how misguided people's anger tends to be. Now, unlike today, that kind of controversy would get people into the movie theaters, and that movie would have been like, holy crap, look at all this free publicity we're getting. Unfortunately, the studio bowed down and pulled the movie, because I guess they were afraid of the controversy that it faced, and it's really a shame. The thing about Silent Night, Deadly Night is it's not a terribly original movie. It's essentially just a slasher movie like every other movie being released at the same time. It just happened to focus on a killer Santa Claus, and I guess the marketing campaign just they screwed up. They basically, instead of focusing on a young man's troubled upbringing, and the fact that he turns to violence, they basically decided to push the killer Santa Claus concept, which backfired on them substantially. it was, like I said, the movie when it was pulled was basically, God had a lot of controversy. A lot of people were angry. Well, here's the funny thing, though. This wasn't the first movie to feature a killer Santa Claus. In 1972, a British movie by the name of Tales from the Crypt featured a segment where a woman basically, kills her husband, and then is somehow encounters a man dressed up as Santa Claus who basically stalks her. And that movie was also remade in the American version of Tales from the Crypt. So that wasn't the first time you had a killer Santa Claus. There's also another, a cult favorite called Christmas Evil that came out in 1980, and that movie focuses on a disturbed man who basically dresses up as Santa Claus, and who, albeit to try to give toys to children, he decides to punish people by murdering them. So that one actually came out 4 years before Silent Night, Deadly Night, and didn't encounter any kind of controversy. Strangely enough, that movie has become a real big cult classic, and it's one I recommend. So if you want to watch a great movie, try to seek out both Tales from the Crypt and Christmas Evil. They're both outstanding Christmas horror movies. Now, when the movie was being made, they it wasn't originally going to be called Silent Night, Deadly Night. It was actually, during production, it was called Sleigh Ride. Basically Slay, Slay, play on words, which actually would have been a pretty good title for it. Hey, that's not a bad title for a movie. Santa sleigh, sleigh, Christmas sleigh, that sort of thing. But now, when and in the aftermath of Silent Night, Deadly Night, you would think that a movie that generated that kind of shitstorm of controversy would have been shelved and put away and forgotten. Well, quite the opposite. They did make a number of sequels, 4 sequels to be exact, with, you have a second movie, third movie, fourth movie, fifth movie, and they all basically told, they similar stories. You either have a killer Santa Claus or you have somebody basically, Santa Claus themed story. So I wouldn't recommend any of them except for the second one, which is kind of funny and silly, and it's got some great comic value to it. But what I would recommend, though, was in 2012 they decided to remake the movie as Silent Night. Now, unlike the 1984 release, Silent Night actually got some pretty decent, reaction from fans. And I will tell you this, it's actually a better movie than the 1984 movie. I think it tells a better story, and it's not as well. It's actually no, it's probably bloodier. It's got some really creative kills, and I did review it last year for my list, so I definitely also recommend the 2012 version of Silent Night. And keep in mind, it's just Silent Night, not Silent Night, Deadly Night. And I will also it also helped get Silent Night, Deadly Night an official proper release on home video and video markets. And as with the copy that I bought, which was the 30th anniversary edition, this one is uncut, so it's got more graphic kills and violence in it. So I'm definitely going to watch that one again to check out what's on there. But with Christmas coming up and the controversy that movies generated, one of the things you have to wonder is why all the anger towards a fictional movie. I mean, we see violent movies being released left and right. Not all of them are scary movies. You have gangster movies. You have movies that involve mass destruction. Disaster movies, and yet it's movies like Silent Night, Deadly Night that catch the controversy. Despite the fact that they're fictional stories, and even if people are angry that they decided to dress up a killer as Santa Claus. I mean, you've got movies where killers dress up as the Easter Bunny. You've got movies where killers dress up as, other characters. I mean, it's silly. These are scary movies, and they're not meant to be taken seriously other than the fact that they are a form of escape and entertainment. So, that being said, I definitely recommend you check out Silent Night, Deadly Night, and check out the other movies I recommended. Once again, that includes Christmas Evil and Tales from the Crypt, as well as Silent Night. I definitely recommend those movies if you want to look for good movies to check out. And I believe all of them should be available on the streaming clients that are out there. If you want, you can always ask me, and I'll let you know where you can find it. So, with that being said, I just want to let y'all go, and y'all have yourself a good night.